Have you ever sat at your desk staring at a spreadsheet that seems to have no purpose and wondered, what am I actually doing here? If so, you might be in what the late anthropologist David Graeber called a bullshit job. It's a blunt term, but it perfectly captures a widespread feeling. A bullshit job, in the simplest terms, is a form of paid employment that is so completely pointless, unnecessary, or even harmful, that not even the person doing it can justify its existence. The employee knows their work contributes nothing meaningful to the world, but they have to pretend it does just to keep getting paid. It's a silent, soul-crushing secret shared by millions. Graeber wasn't just guessing about this. He pointed to surveys showing that a staggering number of people, somewhere around 37 to 40%, believe their jobs make no meaningful contribution. Think about that for a moment. Nearly 2 out of every 5 workers are essentially paid to waste their time. These aren't just lazy people, they are individuals who feel trapped in roles that serve no real function. For example, consider the corporate lawyer who spends years working on contracts that only exist because another company has its own team of lawyers. Or think about the endless layers of middle management in large corporations, where a manager's prestige is measured by how many people they have underneath them, not by what they actually produce. To understand this better, let's look at a real-life story that sounds like it's from a comedy sketch. Meet Joaquin Garcia, a Spanish civil servant who, it was discovered, hadn't shown up to work for at least 6 years. 6 years! His absence was only noticed when he was due to receive an award for long service. How is that even possible? It turned out his bosses at the water board thought the city council was supervising him, and the city council thought the water board was. His job was so utterly non-essential that his complete disappearance from the office went unnoticed for half a decade. He was a ghost in the machine, still getting paid. A perfect, almost beautiful example of a bullshit job. Graeber categorized these roles to make sense of the phenomenon. There are flunkies whose main purpose is to make someone else look important, like a doorman who never has a door to open. There are goons who have an aggressive element, like telemarketers or corporate lobbyists, whose jobs exist only because other people employ them. And then you have duct tapers, people hired to solve a problem that shouldn't exist in the first place, like an employee whose sole task is to reformat data because 2 of the company's software systems can't talk to each other. These aren't just bad jobs, they are roles that actively drain the life out of people and society. The problem with bullshit jobs isn't just that they are a waste of time and money, it's that they are profoundly damaging to the human spirit. Most people have a fundamental need to feel that they are making a positive difference in the world, however small. Taking that away is more than just boring, it's a form of psychological violence. Graeber compared it to a special kind of hell. He referenced the writer Dostoevsky, who once noted that if you wanted to truly crush a prisoner's spirit, you would force them to do something completely useless, like digging a hole and then immediately filling it back in, over and over again. This is essentially what millions of office workers are paid to do every single day. This feeling of uselessness can lead to serious mental and physical health problems. Workers trapped in these roles report high levels of anxiety, depression, and stress-related illnesses. They feel a deep sense of misery and alienation because their daily activities conflict with their basic human desire for purpose. They have to put on a professional face and pretend to be busy, attending pointless meetings and writing reports that no one will ever read. This constant performance, the need to lie to yourself and others about the value of your work, is emotionally exhausting and can lead to a state of complete burnout, leaving people feeling hollow and defeated. This psychological toll is made worse by the fact that many of these jobs are concentrated in clerical, administrative, and managerial roles, the very sectors that have exploded in recent decades. As productive jobs in manufacturing and agriculture were automated, we didn't get the shorter work weeks that economists like John Maynard Keynes predicted. Instead, we created a whole new army of paper pushers. This has led to what Graeber called managerial feudalism, a system where administrative layers are added not for efficiency but to create hierarchies and justify the existence of more managers. This is especially true in sectors like finance, public relations, and human resources. The damage spreads beyond the individual and affects the entire workplace culture. In sectors that are supposed to be useful, like healthcare and education, the rise of administrative bloat creates pointless tasks for people doing genuinely important work. Doctors, nurses, and teachers find themselves spending more and more time filling out forms, attending compliance meetings, and dealing with bureaucratic red tape. This bullshitization of real jobs means that the people we rely on most have less time to actually help us. The nurse has less time for patients and the teacher has less time for students, all because of a growing mountain of pointless paperwork. One of the most infuriating parts of this whole mess is what Graeber identified as the Great Pay Paradox. There seems to be an almost perfect inverse relationship between how useful a job is to society and how much it pays. The more your work benefits other people, the less you are likely to be paid for it. Think about it. If all the garbage collectors in a city went on strike, society would grind to a halt in a matter of days, buried under a mountain of stinking trash. If all the nurses disappeared, our hospitals would collapse. These jobs are undeniably essential to our survival and well-being, yet the people who do them are often underpaid and undervalued. Now consider the opposite scenario. What would happen if all the private equity CEOs, corporate lawyers and lobbyists vanished overnight? Graeber argues that the world would, at best, not notice, and at worst, be significantly better off. These high-paying jobs often involve activities that are, at their core, either useless or actively harmful. A telemarketer's job is to annoy people into buying things they don't need. A lobbyist's job is to persuade politicians to pass laws that benefit a wealthy few at the expense of the many. Yet, these roles are rewarded with enormous salaries, prestige, and power, while the people who care for our children and clean our streets struggle to make ends meet. So why does this happen? Graeber argues the reason isn't economic but moral and political. He suggests that the ruling class has a vested interest in keeping the population busy and tired. A happy, productive population with plenty of free time on their hands could be a mortal danger to the established order because they might start asking difficult questions about why society is organized the way it is. The idea that work, any work, is a moral virtue in itself is a powerful tool for social control. It keeps people focused on their individual struggles and too exhausted to challenge the system that creates this inequality. This bizarre situation creates a toxic political culture of resentment. It pits different groups of workers against each other. For example, right-wing populism often successfully stirs up anger against people with meaningful jobs, like teachers or auto workers, when they demand better pay and benefits. The unspoken message is that having a real job that you can be proud of should be its own reward, and you shouldn't dare to ask for a middle-class salary on top of that. This resentment distracts from the real issue, the fact that our economy has become incredibly good at rewarding activities that create no real value. If the problem is that our economic system is designed to create and reward pointless work, then what's the solution? Tinkering around the edges won't be enough. Graeber proposed a radical but increasingly discussed idea, universal basic income or UBI. The concept is simple. Give every citizen a regular, unconditional sum of money to cover their basic needs like food, housing, and healthcare. This wouldn't be a replacement for work, but a foundation. It would provide a safety net that decouples survival from the necessity of having a job. Any job, no matter how soul-crushing it is. The logic behind UBI as a solution to bullshit jobs is powerful. If people's basic needs are already met, they would no longer be forced to accept meaningless employment just to pay the rent. They would have the freedom to walk away from pointless roles and pursue activities that they find genuinely meaningful, whether that's starting a small business, creating art, caring for a family member, or volunteering in their community. It would give workers real bargaining power. Companies would have to offer not just decent pay, but also meaningful work if they wanted to attract employees. The power dynamic would fundamentally shift in favor of the worker. Of course, critics often ask, wouldn't everyone just sit at home and do nothing? Graeber argued that this is highly unlikely. The evidence we have from UBI pilot programs combined with the basic human desire for purpose suggests that people want to contribute. They want to be active and engaged. A UBI system wouldn't eliminate work, it would liberate people to do real work. Graeber amusingly noted that while some of the work people chose to do might still be nonsense, it's hard to imagine it would reach the 40% level of pointlessness that he estimated exists in our current economy. People, when given the choice, tend to choose purpose over pointlessness. Ultimately, the debate over bullshit jobs forces us to ask some fundamental questions about our society. What is the purpose of work? Is it simply to keep us busy and enrich a small minority, or should it be about creating a better world and allowing individuals to live fulfilling lives? Implementing universal basic income would be a massive societal change, but it could be the key to unlocking human potential on an unprecedented scale. It could lead to a world where people are not only happier and less stressed, but are also free to contribute their unique talents to society in ways we can't even yet imagine. The question is no longer whether we can afford it, but whether we can afford not to.